Good afternoon, almost evening. Very happy to see you, that many of you. It's almost the end of the first day, so still very, hopefully your minds are still okay. Today, before the football match will begin or we'll go for casino, we'll talk about GraphQL. Basically, I will compare it with REST API, and here and there I will stop by simply trying to answer this question. If in this particular case, GraphQL is actually really helpful. GraphQL is nothing really new, it already has quite some time. Before I will start, actually, I need to say that I forgot about introduction slide. So my name is Danielecki. I came from Amsterdam. I am from Poland. I work for a Dutch bank, ABN AMRO. Maybe some of people living in Germany could have heard about this. We have some branches in western part of the country. Outside of my work, I am also occasionally organizing meetups. Not that often, but when we organize it at ABN, then there are like more than 100 people. 4 weeks ago, we organized a debate about many different mobile technologies, and they had couch conversations. I am also quite active on GitHub, Stack Overflow, so that was some of the sources are also from there. Let's start. For some of those who don't know what is GraphQL, I will give a bit of introduction, but basically it's nothing really like new. It already has quite some time, but that's a nice alternative to REST. It's not a replacement. You can actually use both of them in the same project if you really want. But it's a bit different, and then we will get a little bit of a comparison. What are the differences? I just have one slide here, and then later we will just compare a bit more in detail. So on a high level, there are a couple of similarities. It's all over HTTP API endpoint. You get data in JSON. But when it comes to requesting the data I want, by the way, I am front-end developer, so it's a bit from front-end perspective. Then I can decide what kind of data I want and how big will be the response by using a query, or as later you'll see, I will mutate the data if I want. Why GraphQL? It depends by your perspective. Do we have any other front-end developer than me in this room? Okay, we are 3. Fantastic. Yeah, for us it's very simple answer. Let's say in a traditional REST API we're getting 100 fields, key value pairs, key value data with 100 key value pairs, but we just want to use 3 of them. Then we can, with GraphQL, we can just query what we want. So that's very, very simple, and then we can only use what we want, which is a bit simpler. Backend. Then others? Okay, majority. This is what I am expecting on the backend track. For you guys, there might be a bit more. There are some other things you might consider on the architectural level, but starting from the fact that we are not overfetching. So if the frontend only needs 5% of the data, then these problems, or this is not a big problem, but improvement is there. Or when the frontend needs to query from a couple of resources, then we don't do underfetching. You get no null by default. Performance is a bit tricky because you get the response smaller, or we got the response smaller. So in theory, it's faster a bit. But when we will talk about caching, it's not the most optimal in comparison to REST. Because every query is different, or can be different, it's more difficult to cache it. single endpoint, strong typing, for example, if you like TypeScript, etc. Subscription out of the box, and versioning. So when your API will change version, is a bit simpler to manage without any like rerouting or whatever. Who have heard about GraphQL? Bingo. Who have used? Okay. Who would like to use and never used? Okay. Okay. Who didn't hear about GraphQL or doesn't know anything about GraphQL? Okay. Very good. Because click next. Because I have some optional slides. Even with the optional slides, we'll be on time. So we'll do like 10 minutes of a bit of introduction, and then we'll jump to the more advanced parts. So in GraphQL, we have a schema. Schema looks more like this. With there are 3 basic types. Mostly you would use actually those 2, which is query. So when I want to get the data, and when I want to mutate the data, so it is mutation. It's also subscription. I will show in the further slide what it is about. And when you want to pass data, for example, in mutation, to decide which object to modify or delete or add, then you can also use input. I kept it here only because I have a couple of slides, so it won't be that confusing, or a bit less. Object types, 5 basic ones: ID, string, int, float, and boolean. So nothing really exceptional, and you can create your own. For example, here I'm creating user, and then I'm creating post, and those are based on the primitives. Just in user I'm using post, and in post I'm using user. It's possible. The exclamation mark, an idea what it is? Do you want to answer? Yeah, exactly. So here, so ID, name, email, I must pass some data. Age is optional. So it's yeah, it might be there, but doesn't need to. Query. So that's where there is a big difference between REST. When I define my queries, I just said what I have, what I want, and for example, here I have users, post, dummy, post, and I can, in one query, I can get all of them. I don't need to call 4 times, and in one response, I will get all this data. So if it's about getting data, one moment, this is how I would call it from the front end. So I will let me back. This is how I define the schema for a query, and this is how I would call from my front end, or for 3 of us front end. So if it's about getting data, then it's kind of like a get in HTTP in REST. Mutation, as the name suggests, mutate data. So when I would like to create or delete or update, the input is, it's I'm just what kind of data. It's kind of like an interface, let's say, but it's only the scenario when I am passing to the mutation. Because we also have seen, for example, type here. That's the difference. This one I'm using when I'm passing. So mutation, I will create, delete, or update. And that's how I call it from my front end. There's the keyword mutation, the name of the mutation, and the data I'm passing. I want to mutate, and then what I will get in the response. So this is basically like you have CRUD operation without the R, because reading is for query. Subscription, the last from those 3, the basic ones. Very simple type, subscription, and and I have stuff inside. I call it like that. Very simple. So here we are, almost with a very first demo. Subscription is kind of like a WebSocket, so you get real data communication. I will have a very simple demo to showcase it. Yeah, we have very good timing, so why not? So I will open my. Can you see basically? Okay, it's good. That's perfect. I will open my, let's say, GraphQL IDE. Let's say I have no clue about this. That's good because every time I'm creating my logic, the communication is being created automatically. So we started with query, and this is how the demo will start with. I will first want to get some data, so I make a query. Oh, first typo. But I don't know, let's say I don't remember. No problem. I can get it. I can quickly find it that I have defined, let's say, kind of 4, not really endpoints, but 4 queries. So I can query users, I can query post, dummy, and post. So I will query users. Let's try to run it, even though there's error, but it's okay. It will give me an ID by default. So here we are. Very simple REST GET API, kind of. Now, let's say I want to get something more than ID. By the way, it automatically made it because that's the only one really which must be there with every request. Now let's say I want name, because it's not like with REST that I'm getting everything, but I need to be more specific. So okay, I got a name. Okay, doesn't auto format. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Is the return value in JSON format or is it just
No, this is a JSON format. Yeah, this is JSON. Yeah, you can see here, right?
and this will always be JSON?
Yeah, it will be always JSON, like with REST. So now let's say I wanted name, but now I want email, so I get email. So I query only what I want. And now, if you can see, for age I don't have the exclamation mark. So let's see what happens. What I will do with age. Sometimes I just get a null because for some of the data it was not really required to have it there. Okay. I can get also posts, because as you can see it's also here, posts, ID, and I will get the post. And now I want to find out what post has, and then I will get a title, body, whatever. And then this is what we are getting. So we just query what we want. Tomorrow, I don't want this, then I can just remove it up if I don't make a typo. And then I'm just querying what I want without getting everything. So that would be everything for query.
Is there any ability to filter?
Huh?
Is there any filtering ability?
Yeah, you can sort, you can get pagination, whatever you want. And yeah, I have this on much further slides. But yeah, you can do, you can, there are different ways. Let me try now. Oh, this is a good one. I almost forgot. Because I can also query multiple things. So now we have done users. This is actually another IDE feature, but this is IDE things. And now let's say, usually for REST I will need to make 4 different calls, but here I can get just everything at once. I made some mistake. Okay. Let's try like this. Okay. Not sure why the other thing didn't work. users, but from users I can get something. I think name was there. So here I would need to make two different get requests, but because there is one endpoint, and endpoint is this one in my case, which is localhost 4000 GraphQL. That's how I call my API endpoint. I can get 2 in 1, or you can get also 4 in 1, but something, of course, that didn't work this time. But the idea is there, right? We got data from 2 different sources, let's say. In fact, this one. Okay. But what we can do also, we can mutate data, okay? So here we have, before I mutate data, or no, I almost forgot. I can also show you quickly how it looks on in the front end, because this is just some kind of simulation. Oh, I can do it actually more professional. And then in this case, I'm just printing on front end the names, and very simple code in the HTML, which has nothing, just to ID users, where I will print those users, and then src to my JavaScript, where I have all this very big logic of 33 lines of code. What is required? There is some Apollo, some client. I use Apollo client, the most popular, I believe. I am just setting up the client here. I'm doing my, as you can see, query users ID name, exactly the same what we did in the IDE, but in a real world. And then I am making the query. This is Apollo client specific syntax. So sorry, I got too many extensions. And then we are just printing this out here. And we can also see it in the network tab. It should be here. I got my data. Oh, I think you can clearly see it. I got the ID and I get the name. And then, let's say I also want an email. Bam. And now we can see there is also email. We can also print it if we really want. And we got this image. Here I'm in HTML, then not really. But when I am like in a proper, like you have seen the ID which I was doing the first couple of demos, when I was doing a query and then it auto-completed for me something. Then you will get it from, for example, from your IDE, right? You can just get it, and then this is most likely not the best one because it has only 3 stars, but it's from your IDE, so you can just no. Yeah, exactly. Like in the IDE, which I work on the localhost, I could get some extension in code. Yes. No. Here, no. Here I'm in HTML, no. But if I would, frankly speaking, I have schema here. Yeah, I don't have on this ID the, as you can see, it's not highlighted. I need to get one of the extensions and then it will highlight it. But with the, like, by default code. So as you can see, I don't have any GraphQL extension. You don't get it. You need to get yeah. I guess like what kind of IDE are you using? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like me. Yes, please add. Okay, so just to finalize this example, I make a typo here. It doesn't tell me anything, and I'm also my front end is broken. That's true. That's true. Yeah, exactly. It's JS. Yeah. Okay, where I've been, let me check. We showed this one. You have seen this. That's fine. Mutation. Okay. I will speed up a bit. I will keep it name. Okay. I will make a quick mutation. So I'm writing mutation. I don't remember which one. I don't remember the syntax. Okay. Then I have my auto-generated documentation. Now, so in this IDD, but it's when you make a query, right? Not when you define the schema. Then I'm getting data, and then it will tell me, okay, 1 moment. Then it will tell me which ones are required. I think you can read it that field something something dot name is required and dot email also. So I will get name. It's my name. I think email, right? Email was required also. And okay, and I will put also age. I was 31 2 days ago, so let's do that. And then I got a response. Okay. Then here I could also define what kind of data as a response I want. Here it auto did it for me, ID. Let's see if it's there. I make one more query, and it's there. So we have, that's how mutation works. I don't have time to show also like delete or update, but you can just imagine it works. Let me do it on my front end. It's also Daniel. And the last one, I check it here, and I also have it, and it's there. Okay. Subscription is the simplest one, and I need to move towards other part of presentation. Yeah, I can show it again. I make a count, and then it will give me, this is like the simplest example, of course. Then it will make this a real-time communication. Okay, we are done with the first part of the demo and the small introduction. So now everyone's on the same level, very advanced. Beyond the basics, we start very slow. Learning curve, yeah, it's a bit newer, let's say. There is less documentation, so it will take a bit more time. Also, there are many different environments like GraphQL, Yoga, resources from Apollo, or there's a client or server, and as we will see later, for example, with error handling, they can have different of specific errors, while for REST API, everything's more like not really standardized, but everywhere is like the same error codes, status codes, I'm sorry. We will go to slightly more interesting part. It's caching. It's a bit more complex because before I will explain it, because let me go back. When the backend doesn't know like what the frontend will ask for example, if we have like 10 10 different fields. We don't know like which one frontend will ask for. In REST API, you just got everything each time, so you can easily cache it. But here one is a bit more difficult because of the uncertainty. So here I think it's a little disadvantage. There is a solution. I will come to this a bit later, but let's quickly compare the. This time it's ChatGPT generated code. The previous ones were what I wrote by myself while learning some time back. When we are caching in REST, I ask for Express because I'm JavaScript developer, so that's the most familiar for me. I get Express, get from Express package. I'm setting the root, and then everything just very standardized. I just setting up in the header entity tag, and then if this is not modified, then it's being returned. Very simple. And because of the data is every time the same, we can easily do that. In GraphQL, it's a bit more difficult. Here we'll see example when there's the schema definition. We define a query. The type, the type is for the resource, and in the resolver, resolver is like a adapter bridge kind of connector between your data source database and what is being supposed to be executed. I think I can quickly show you in a moment. I think it's okay showing up a bit now. So for example, here I have resolvers, and this is a resolver because I'm connecting somewhere from database, so to whatever action is required. So for example, here I am creating user, and then I'm doing these modifications. The logic to modify it here. The same for deleting is delete, and then this is another resolver, etc. So this is the equivalent for setting the cache. This is more Apollo specific. There I think behind the scenes there it says the headers, but to be honest, what's behind the set cache hints I don't exactly know. Sorry. Okay. And then we are setting that for the ID, name, and value on the server. And this is how it will look on the server. And now I'm doing also some magic on the clients. I'm setting the Apollo client. So here I have the client, the URI, and then the cache. Now I am making the query. So I will just save this in the constant so I can reuse it. And here I don't have anything like 3 or 4. But when the query with exactly those 3 fields will be there, I make the query, and then it should be magically cached. So there is nothing really like in like Week'24 REST. But when our front end will add, for example, we'll call one more field, then you need to do it again and again. And there is a solution called batching for that. Later I have one slide on this. If you want to read already, you can read about data loader. But when it comes to caching, is the first stop. I would say that okay, REST has quite some advantage. And then if you need to rely on cache, again go back to performance, one of the first slides, then I would actually opt for REST. Error handling. Time check, we are halfway, okay. Error handling. Sometimes you might get confused while working with GraphQL that when the error, for some or for most of the errors, when they're being there's something wrong with the query or mutation or whatever, there is still you still get in return 200, and we will soon see it in a very short demo. In REST, you got all the status codes, 403, 404, 500, 400. In GraphQL, there are like error classes. Some of them are specific to whether it's you can take it from pure GraphQL error, but can be also more specific by environment, like GraphQL Yoga or Apollo server, which is alternative to GraphQL Yoga, which is basically a server. And you will define this in for REST within the response by the end. GraphQL errors are being found in resolvers, which I showed once again. Resolvers are those which connects the database with the operation. So it makes sense that if I'm doing some operation, sorry for the hints, then I can throw some kind of error here, right? Like this one, for example. Okay. And I think I have a demo, not yet. Here, one-to-one very simple comparison. We get try and catch when we are want to get some resource. When it's not found, everyone knows 404. When there's some internal server 500. For GraphQL, you need to find out there can be different types of errors actually, and then you can. It's not like there's not like a mapping, which is I would prefer to have more on the REST side. Yes, here we have a demo. And actually, I think I can show here one demo, because when I will try to create the same mutation again, I can see that email is taken, and I get even though I still get a status code 200, and then we have seen that this email taken. That's the message which I have defined here, right? Okay, and we still got 200. Let's see in one more demo. Now in a real front end, which is as much as 33 lines of JavaScript code. Let's say I will query something which doesn't exist. I could also show it in the IDE, by the way, but it just with this demo it's much more, there are less things, so it's easier to see these changes, these differences. So now I'm querying something which doesn't exist. My page is already blank, so most likely it's broken. And then I will see this is 200, and then I can see, okay, this is an error. Even though the page is completely broken now, which still I could handle somehow on front end, but okay. But in the preview, I'm getting that getting the error. I check the headers, and it's still 200. So this is it might be very unintuitive, but GraphQL is saying that okay, it was a valid query, so there's still a response, and the valid response is error. Everyone can have an opinion about this. I'm not saying it's correct. There are much smarter people who wrote GraphQL, but it's just good to know, learning. Second point, which I would think, okay, maybe REST is more useful, or maybe GraphQL is not always useful while dealing with error handling, and it can get complex. You get different types of error, and then find out what is what. But there are some errors which would work as expected. This mostly relate to authorization. I don't have authorization data, authorization demo, and I also need to be in time. And on top of this, 400 or 500 can be also there. Now, I think there was. I will soon get back to what you asked for at 20 minutes ago. There will be now 3 features which are very, very similar. So there will be also very, very short. When I want to get a single ID, going back to the previous slide, why I put them? Because I think if we are comparing almost everything, then let's just source the knowledge. When I want to get a single ID from my frontend, or three of us wants to do it, then it's also very straightforward in GraphQL. You get a query, user, and then you are specifying what kind of ID you want. And this is what you'll get as a response. So it will be information about name, ID, name, and email in the response. But based on this, I am making my identification, which is very similar what we have in REST. Another feature which is also very similar, pagination. I'm just gonna to fetch some specific page, which is very common scenario in front end, of course. And when dealing with APIs in general for both sides, I can easily start with specific page, skip some pages, make a limit, offset. Nothing really different than you can get in REST, just slightly different. You call it differently. And sorting, yes, it is possible. And then I have also simple example for that. Here I can sort by specific name, by specific field. Here I make a name, but it could be also email, it could be title, whatever. I can set what type of order I want. Nothing really different than we can get in REST. So here they are really comparable. Now, I'm a active Stack Overflow user. So when I was learning GraphQL, of course, I have been also checking the source, and I can imagine many of you might be also trying to copy paste or learn whatever. Even though if we have ChatGPT today, I still really like doing this with Stack Overflow. So I took a look what are the top questions for GraphQL on Stack Overflow. You can easily do that by finding the right tag and then one or two more clicks, and then you can get it segregated. And here are the questions, 21,000 questions, so that's quite some. And one of these questions was also my question when I have been learning GraphQL and when I wanted to query everything. And I didn't want to have like very long query, or actually I was just lazy and just wanted to query with asterisk. But it didn't really work because that's how they made it, and it's on purpose. So that's a good learning that, for example, this will not work, this will not work. You need to be very specific. For example, let's say you are using lots of data on front end, and then this data can be also nested, of course. Then I would consider, okay, maybe REST is it's a bit better because I don't need to write all these long queries. And here I would be also my third point to stop. Okay, I would go for REST in this scenario when I want to query not even all data, but almost all data. Introspection. Anyone have heard about introspection? Okay, cool. Introspection is a GraphQL feature which helps you to basically find out your way, how all these things are being connected. I have one slide which will visualize this exactly, and I have a very short demo. But for introspection, I will be just very lazy. I will just copy paste the code because I'm also not super familiar with introspection. I don't work that much with this. And wait, I will make one. So when I want to introspect some things, I can see, for example, that I can find easily what are types which are being used in my API. There is query, there is string, there is mutation, there's ID, etc., etc., etc. Some of them, like ID or int, also subscription, are like the default ones. Some of them are created by me, like create user input or update user input. But looks very, nothing really special for now. But I have one interesting command which I prepared, and I also want to finish 10 minutes before the football match, of course. Here, I'm interested in the post, or actually I can do it maybe user. Yeah, we work on user, so let's make it on user. And here I can quickly see all the data and also how the API is being built, and I can basically know everything about the user, which is a good thing. Of course, it's a great feature of GraphQL. However, when we go to production, we want to have this disabled for a security reason. So at the beginning, it's very easy to simply forget about it. And for example, if I get where I have it, one moment. Oh, here. There are plugins. I can get a quick plugin. I will try to exit again, and now it's disabled. This is how it should be on production, so no one gets any information. And you can also make it a bit. Wait, I will enable this again. It's enabled, and I will disable this again with more realistic scenario. For example, when you are setting some headers, based on header, you can decide whether it should be enabled or not. If you don't want to deal like me manually for the purpose of the demo, then it will be also disabled, because of course I don't have this header here. This can be closed, and make sure to disable it because it's by default on. Another way, it just can be some environmental variable. You can say it like, I work with Node.js, so when it's not production, then it should be enabled on non-production. Okay, and it was pretty. You can think what you can get out of this. With the proper software, you can get all these kind of mappings. Yes, this picture is not too bad. You can more or less grab the idea what it is about. So then you can get all these mappings, how it is connected, what types are there for everything. So this is very useful when you are finding where during development. But of course, when you are going to production, you want to disable it, and there is even OWASP recommendation for that. If you want to read a bit more why you should disable it, there is even article from Apollo, I believe, but it's rather straightforward that you don't want to expose all your API logic to everyone. Okay. Again, introspection, something you might think if you forget, then might be a little disadvantage. Okay, we are. We are because of this nesting which we can do. Actually, I will show a demo. It doesn't make sense to present. So I'm doing my query. And now I will be a bit fast. Query users. Okay, I'm getting this here, and I'm getting name, email, because asterisk doesn't work, so I'm getting everything, and I'm getting posts. And in posts, there are also author. There is also author, but of course ID, title, keep it a bit shorter. And inside the author, I can get a user, which is ID, let's say name, email, maybe someone is very sharp already can see. And in post, I can again get ID, title, author. So if say someone is a poor developer, like now I am, then we can quickly, because of the nesting, which gives us lots of flexibility, it's easier to make this kind of so-called circular nesting. So then we are making the post, and we are getting author, post, and this again in author is inside. Of course, it could be the API could be designed better, of course, but also the front end could be better skilled. At the moment, I am not. So that's also a little, with REST, you would get a smaller risk of running into this problem. I name it like this, standardization versus fragmentation. I'm not saying I'm correct, but I want to say with REST, you always have the same all well-known get, post, pull, delete, etc., etc. And with the status codes, everyone knows. Standard, okay. But with GraphQL, there are many different objects. For example, very popular are Apollo Server and GraphQL Yoga, and each of them might work a little bit different. Also, for example, you can compare now. I would switch between Express, which is JavaScript, and some Python. I can imagine you will still get the same. You will still operate on the same status codes, but here it won't be the same. That's why I highly recommend selecting the right projects. And now we will get back for a moment to a data loader, which is a problem about batching. So as I said at the beginning, during one of the first technical comparisons, it was caching. When we want to cache GraphQL with every different query, you can get something slightly different, and this is difficult to cache. You can batch it, and data loader is a tool for that. But if you look on the project, then it hasn't been already updated that much. Implementation looks so similar, so easy. I'm sorry, it looks so easy, just a couple of lines of code. But looking at this, even though it was created by Facebook, Meta, how you call them, I would be a bit skeptical about caching GraphQL, seeing the current up-to-date status for data loader. So if caching is as a thing, I wouldn't use GraphQL. Another project, GraphQL Voyager. Maybe 10 slides back, we have seen this picture with these graphs connected. Yeah, I tried to get it running. I couldn't, unfortunately. Also, it was time box. So very useful tool to visualize it. But every time you go there, you go to this 13,000 star repository. We are seeing lots of people having issues with running this. So again, be careful what we are picking up. Newsletter from which you can get the tools which are being used. However, last 6 weeks they didn't publish anything. So it's a question what's there, but it's a good one anyways. That's why just outcome. If you are seeing tools from those two organizations, Apollo, GraphQL, or the Guild, you are safe to use. You are good to go. Apollo will give you Apollo client, Apollo server, and then they also have many different clients for JavaScript, Kotlin, and I think Swift should be also there. Something more. The Guild is has GraphQL Yoga, which is alternative to Apollo server, and a couple of others. So those two, it's okay. We have 10 minutes to go. Okay. I think maybe I should skip it. I will skip it. So I will skip these ones. I will just show a very little demo. When I have my unit tests written, yeah, simple test. Okay, first of all, normal jest is working. Anyone use jest? Okay, jest is like very popular for like unit testing for front end. So jest is working, typical unit test stuff tool. It's quite a lot of code, to be honest. 106 lines of code to test one query, one mutation, and one subscription. To be honest, I think also the reason it might be because I selected GraphQL Yoga for my server. Now I would go with Apollo server. It took quite some time for me to realize that I need to create a schema here, read from the file, then I need to create an executor, whatever it is, and only then I am able to finally run a query and make it basically happen. So this is the executor. I'm getting the query, and I'm comparing it here. Next, the same for mutation. I'm creating the result here. I'm creating the mock here. And one moment. Okay, yeah, I'm creating the mock here, and then I'm basically comparing this a bit further down. Query and mutation still okay. You will find the documentation to test it, but with subscription, I think it took me like 3 or 4 hours to test one very simple subscription, which, as you could see, it's like just went 1, 2, 3, 4 every 1,000 seconds. Yeah, maybe I'm not a unit testing guru, but I use it per daily basis. But with unit testing, I think there is much less code snippets on especially Stack Overflow or anywhere else. So you might get lots of like time constraints or some little delays while trying to do it on your own. And given the fact I have it ready, then I will just yarn test, I believe. I can quickly show. So this is, as you can see, so this is running with jest. So it's standardized, and I will run it. And it will even pass, not too bad, one query, one mutation, one subscription. Not too bad. Now, 10 slides to go. I speed up. Quick trends from GitHub. So REST is not dying anywhere, just to be sure. Data is 2022. No idea why ChatGPT was able to generate data only with this year. And then, but the chart will be very similar to the last year. Again, Google Trends. You wanted to make a picture? This one? One more? No problem. Here in Google Trends, we can see there is a little bit more interest over GraphQL. And then if you look on the Stack Overflow, we can see basically very similar trend. When developers are asked what they love, maybe most of them are front-end developers. We, of course, love GraphQL. So here you go. There is more love for GraphQL. And this was just this is like from all different type of sources and data combined, and we can see the rest is still used more widely. And again, the loft is a bit better for GraphQL. Conclusion. Very useful. GraphQL is very useful. Personally, for me, if caching would be the thing that would be the most important, would be like a breaker to use it. Mostly, you know, guys, how to design API. So let's say SQL queries are our problems. Error handling might take some time. Disable introspection on production, because if you are doing your first graph API, GraphQL API, then it will be enabled. So make sure it's disabled. For security reasons, query asterisk will not work. Use the good projects for Apollo and the guild. And unit testing, especially if you are dealing with subscription, might take some time. Before I go to the one last slide, anyone is actually taking like AWS, Azure certification or any kind of certifications? No. Okay. If you want, then I'm running just small GitHub community. We have like 1,000 people on Discord, and you can basically get all resources for many of your certifications for free, which are open source. Okay. Shall we wrap up? Thank you so much for listening.